Hi football fans, my name is Cillian O'Grady, the Irish Flying Canary and a long-time Norwich City fan. Welcome to the second edition of the Beyond the Barclay podcast, focusing on travel supporters' O'Grady away days. In this episode, we'll focus on the city of Plymouth and specifically Home Park, the home of the Pilgrims, Plymouth Argyle. I know along with many other Norwich fans we're looking forward to our trip to Plymouth on Saturday, despite the long distance. The podcast will hopefully give you an insight into getting to Home Park and back home safely, enjoying all that Plymouth has to offer. And given that the Pilgrims are due to host Sheffield, Coventry and Leeds before the end of the season, it will hopefully serve as a useful guide for other fans. There will probably be not too many of us travelling by plane, unless there are other international Canaries and Pilgrims travelling. I'll be flying into Bristol. This time, though, not from Dublin, but from Glasgow. A few days ahead of the game, and we'll be renting a car for the drive to Plymouth, completing some work in Gloucestershire, Wiltshire and other parts of Devon on the way there. Anyway, for anyone flying to Bristol, the airport is well connected to the city using the A1 Flyer bus that goes to Templemead Station, where you can then catch a train to Plymouth. And there are also flight options to Newquay and Exeter. It's about 3 hours by train from Newquay or Bristol and about an hour and a half from Exeter. Of course, I'm no expert on Plymouth, so I'm delighted to be joined by two very special guests on the show who can no doubt give us a much better insight. A member of the Southwest Canaries based near Plymouth, Matt Bryan, and Pilgrims fan and regular contributor to Where Pilgrims Walk podcast, Reece Moore. You're both very welcome to the show, lads.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Maybe we could start with you, Reece, and tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a Plymouth fan.
I wasn't given much choice as a child. I was dragged along to the games. I think first season ticket, I was 5. I've been going ever since. Still sit the same way around with my dad. Sit relatively the same seats as what we did when we first started going. And now do as many away games as I can cope with, depending on how we're playing at that point. And as every home game I can. So, if you cut me open, I bleed green.
I see. Well, I think we bleed green or yellow as well. So. And are you living in Plymouth itself?
Yeah. I mean, if I look out that window there, I can see the stadium. So
okay, so real as local as they get, as they say.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And Matt, I'm intrigued to figure out how somebody from the Southwest is a Norwich fan, or how you ended up supporting Norwich, or how you ended up in Devon.
Yeah, it's a quite a long story, really. I was from Norfolk and grew up in Norfolk, and went to my first game 40 years ago this month, which was a 2-2 draw with Aston Villa. So I mean, and it's lovely at the moment. We're celebrating 40 years since we won the Milk Cup. So I've been a fan ever since. I have a season ticket still, despite living close to Plymouth in the Lower Barclay, and try and get to as many home and away games as I can. I mean, my first trip to Carrow Road was a school trip, but my head teacher was a massive Norwich fan, and I went up with my dad, and I've been hooked ever since, really. I've been fortunate enough to follow Norwich across Europe, so Milan, and Munich, and was wearing this very shirt. So it's been an absolute pleasure at times. At times a bit disappointing, but and I first went to Plymouth early 90s, and I used to sometimes go and watch Plymouth play because it's a long way to get to Norwich, and I didn't have much money in those days. And I stood on the terrace. What the terrace is called, Reece? I can't remember for the life of me. It's Devonport End. Devonport End. I stood there, and I think I watched Bruce Grobbelaar playing for Plymouth. So it was a wee while ago. But I went back to London for a few years, and then my partner is from Devon, so that's how I ended up down here. But it's a wonderful part of the world to live, and Plymouth is a wonderful city.
Fabulous. Well, we'll look forward to hearing all about it now as we go through some of the things. But in terms of, say, match day rituals, Reece, what's your ritual? Obviously, it's only outside your window there, but the sound of things. What do you do at a home day?
Well, yeah, it's only just out the window, but weirdly, I go away from the stadium before going towards it. So I head towards my parents and then walk to their local pub, Tamar, have some food, drinks and stuff, and then we'll either bus it or, depending on how our legs are, we'll either walk it or, depending on how our legs are, we'll get the bus down. And it's quite, if you know Plymouth well, it's full of hills. So if it's raining, it's not very fun walking down to the stadium. But so that's what we do. Every game, down to the pub, go for our football bets, go for our Super Six, all those sort of things, and watch the early kickoff.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit like, Norfolk or Norwich people feel at home, but Norwich is full of hills as well. That's my experience of travelling there. Matt, what's your routine like for obviously for this particular game, or a game that's more local to you than?
Yeah, it's one I look forward to because it's a 45-minute trip by train as opposed to a 6-hour drive. So it's very much a case of I love going back to Plymouth. So opportunities to go back there, I get there as early as possible. I get the train in from Newton Abbot into Plymouth, and yeah, go get a breakfast somewhere down the Barbican, and have a few beers down there. Lose track of the time, have to quickly jump into town, get a taxi, and get over to Home Park. So that would be very much probably my ritual, I imagine.
Yeah, so for people travelling, and I suppose that would include Plymouth fans, but obviously certainly Norwich fans, it's a long journey for most of them, I'd imagine. Is train the easiest way to get to Plymouth?
Yeah. So, well, nowhere's easy to get down here, really, because we're in the middle of nowhere, got no motorway, no airport. But yeah, the train station is just I think it's a 20-minute walk from the stadium, but it's down through the park. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way in. Parking's not great around the stadium. Parking for cars is always a bit of a nightmare. Yeah, train is probably the easiest way into the city.
If somebody is driving, is there somewhere you would recommend for them to park?
Yeah, so oddly, for most stadiums in this league, we've actually got a big car park just outside the stadium. Problem with that, it does fill up probably 3 hours before kickoff, 3-4 hours before kickoff. But there's plenty of streets around the area. You just have to be careful. There's a lot of permit only, so you just have to be picking the right ones. But if you cross the road from where the main stadium is, over the other side of Alton Road, all those streets around there, I believe, don't have permits on them.
I'm going to have to excuse my ignorance, but is there a main bus station or something for anybody who's travelling by bus?
So yeah, so there's you got it depends on where you're coming from, but if you're coming from town, buses come straight up past, and then if you're coming from the north of the city towards the A38, then there's a bus that comes down there. There's no major bus terminal as such. They just sort of go past the stadium, but you can't miss the stadium, should we say?
And I imagine with all those hills, people might get a little bit thirsty walking around. So, Matt, where would you recommend for away fans to go for a drink if they want to quench that thirst a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the nearest pub, I think, to Home Park's Britannia. The drawback with Britannia, a cracking pub, but it does get very busy, so you need to get there early or you're queuing. I mean, sort of half hour if you feel like it, or possibly a taxi ride. You've got Mutley Plain, which is some great pubs down there, and North Hill. It's great for after the game as well if you're staying over. It's quite mellow. There's some nice bars around there, very very studenty. And if you want, say, more perhaps traditional pubs, then there's some couple of cracking little pubs in Stoke Village, which is kind of the other side of Home Parks, or where Mutley Plain is. So I'd definitely recommend going down there. I think that's where we ended up last year, but I think after last year's result at Home Park, I won't be going down there again. I might go somewhere else.
I was in the Britannia actually before the match last season, and it was great. It was really nice to have it, like to be in a mixed pub with that, have a bit of banter with the Plymouth fans. I'm not sure I would have been brave enough to go back afterwards. Head in shame. Reece, what about you? Is there any particular pub popular with Plymouth fans?
Yeah, so I'm a bit what should I say? I stick to my local, so the Tamar is always my favourite. It's a Green King pub. It's all right food and decent beers. But then you, like Matt said, you've got Stoke, Britannia, but also the Barbican is a good popular favourite for a lot of people, especially if you're staying over or if you're arriving early into the city. The Barbican, there's so much choice down there, especially if it's hopefully the weather's decent. So when the sun's out down there, you feel like you're abroad.
Wow.
It's a good. I mean,
you're selling
it's a good shout there. Yeah, I mean, it's cracking bars down there. I think the Navy's one of my favourites, and the Dolphin. And
Dolphin's a brilliant pub.
Smashing place. It hasn't changed hardly at all. It's great. We're staying actually not far from I think it's Cockside, and so we'll probably be venturing down to the Barbican at some point.
Sounds like fun. And if you're a bit peckish and hungry, obviously you mentioned your local Green King there, Reece. Is there any good recommendations for places to eat?
Well, as a Janner, born and bred, I don't think you can come down here without having a pasty.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of pasty vans around. I think there's about 4 or 5 of them that line the streets.
Is there best pasty, you'd say?
The best pasty, I can't even say it's from Plymouth. It's from like one of the local towns. But the best one in Plymouth for me is Iverdoonies, which their vans, they are spotted around a lot. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. Literally between the stadium and the Britannia, there's an Iverduni van. But yeah, definitely get yourself a pasty.
Well worth it. What would you say, Matt? Do you agree with that?
I mean, go back to the barbecue again. Best place for food, got Captain Jasper's. It's a burger establishment. It's been there donkey's years, but I do have to agree with Reece as well. Iverduni's, their pasties are pretty decent, to be honest. Living down here for a while, I've sort of tried different types of pasties, but they're definitely up there. So yeah, it's a good shout.
Excellent. And around the ground, is that again what you'd be recommending? Pasty or a burger? Or...
Yeah, there's a fan zone now they've set up. I haven't been there yet, but I think there's pasties and burger vans, and I think there might even be a pizza lorry there or something. But they're same again, beers, and there's live music on and all that sort of stuff.
Ooh. Sounds interesting. Is that available for all fans? Or?
Yeah, available home and away fans. I think you just got to have a match day ticket, and then you can get in there.
Sounds good. What's the atmosphere like before a match then around home park? Is it generally good?
Well, normally it's very good. At the moment, a little bit anxious. But yeah, no, atmosphere normally it starts building probably 5-10 minutes before. But there's always it's always a friendly welcome. I think do quite a few away games. I think it's always one of the friendliest. And there's lots to do around the stadium. So the atmosphere is it's quite buzzing around the stadium.
Yeah. And then in the stadium, what's it like? Let's say start with you, Matt, for away fans. I have to say my memory from last year, as even though we were 5 down, I think it was probably the best atmosphere I was at for an away game. It seemed we didn't care at that stage. Really got going.
Yeah, I suppose I'm probably slightly biased because I do kind of consider Plymouth to be my second team, but I think home park's a cracking stadium, and I think they've done so much to it. But I'm glad they've stayed there at that location, regenerated it, refurbed it. And the atmosphere's always been cracking. It really has. I think people haven't been there before. You really appreciate how good it can be, and sometimes if you see it on telly recently in the cup game against Liverpool, it was absolutely cracking. Just coming across on telly, and they really get behind their side. So yeah, we're gonna have some work to do.
Plymouth did play Liverpool, did they? How did that match go?
We did all right in it, didn't we?
That's the highlight of the season for you, Reece.
Definitely a highlight of the season, unfortunately.
Very good. And what's the atmosphere like then inside the stadium for home fans? Is there a particular area that's louder than others?
At the moment, there's a lot of nerves around the stadium, and it is causing a little bit of the atmosphere. Just takes a bit of time to get going. And if the team turn up, but once that team turns up and once the atmosphere builds and everything gets going, I mean, we've seen it the last couple of years. Certainly when we won League One, the atmosphere just electric in there, and you go home really tingling. And if it's a late night kickoff, I think under the lights the stadium's even better. But you go home and you can't sleep for 3 hours after, and it's the atmosphere is very good in the stadium, I think.
Brilliant. And in terms of, are there any songs or chants Norwich fans should be listening out for?
When just after players come out, we've got our Jana song, which we play sort of like Liverpool's "You Never Walk Alone" sort of thing. So that gets pelted out. After that, it tends to be anything that can throw a little bit of abuse at the Norwich fans. Everyone's northern from us, so I'm sure there'll be a few digs at people being northern from us. But yeah, other than that, Jana's song's our favourite song at the moment.
What about Matt? Anything that the Plymouth fans should be listening out for from the Norwich fans?
Yeah, we have our own theme, our own song, and by all accounts, the oldest football song in the world. On the Ball City.
Older than the Janner song, is it?
Sorry?
Is it older than the Janner song?
Oh God, definitely oldest football song in the world. That's the one to watch out for. And then generally after that, quite a bit of probably anti-Ipswich stuff, especially at the moment with their, stay in the Premier League, looking close to end soon. I think there'll probably be some of that as well. So, yeah, it should be fun.
Great.
It should be a good atmosphere because we beat them to the title, remember, as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that makes Norwich people quite like Plymouth quite a bit. And is there an opportunity if fans wanted to meet the players? What's it like as a stadium, or in terms of player rituals to get to meet the teams? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think so. So I think the outside Devon end where Matt was saying earlier stood. It's the first part of the stadium you'll come across as you come up towards the stadium. I think the away coach arrives. I don't know what time it arrives, but They sort of put some barriers up, and you can stand either side of those and get interaction with the away players as they get off the coach.
What about the home players then? Do they get to mingle?
Home players, I think it's like 150 people allowed into their car park where the players go, and you can sort of the same sort of setup, and you're allowed. You can get signatures and stuff from the players there.
And is that like do you have to book that in advance, or is that?
I don't think so. I think it's just a first come first serve thing, and it's sort of they prioritise some of the kids and stuff like that, and they've got mascots and all that sort of stuff still up there as well.
Cool. So, for people visiting Plymouth for the first time, and I know a lot of Norwich fans who've never made it to Plymouth and are talking about going, outside of football, is there anything you'd recommend? Say, like, when you go to Plymouth, you've got to go and do this. What would that be?
Obviously, we've said it a few times: the Barbican, Town, and Plymouth Hoe. I work in the dockyard, so there's dockyard tours as well. So you can get on a boat and go up the river, see all the history. We've got the largest naval base in Western Europe in Plymouth.
Wow.
So you see all that, see all the Navy vessels coming in and out. If they're sort of coming in and out, depends on Saturday. But you got those, you've got tours going around. There's plenty of local, like if you're into seafood and stuff, there's loads of seafood restaurants. Being that sort of port city, there's fish market and everything around. And then I think the National Marine Museum, I'll recommend that. That's good. The aquarium.
Excellent. Matt, anything you'd add?
I mean, such like Reece mentioned on there. I mean, the Hoe is it's quite a spectacular place. Very tidy. Got Smeaton's Tower, the lighthouse there. Definitely, if it's open, it's worth a tour of the lighthouse. Just to go out to the Hoe, have a look at where Francis Drake was before playing bowls, before he smashed the Spanish Armada. It's worth having a look around there. If you've got time, it's what I always ferry to Mount Edgecombe, pub Mount Edgecombe Arms, which I think is Cornwall, really, isn't it, Reece? More than Devon.
Yes, it's Cornwall. Yeah, it's Cornwall. Yeah.
But that's worth a look, and there's plenty of boat trips as well if the weather's good. Corsan Bay, that's really nice. And yeah, touching on it again, the Barbican, great on a summer's day. Some cracking pubs around there as well. That's worth a look as well. And there's plenty to do there. So all sorts of tastes really. But no, I always found it very friendly, very down to earth city. No pretense. Canary fans sort of staying over, just try and just see as much of it as you can. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, no disrespect, there's a lot of grey buildings that have been put in place. But there's a lot of wonderful history as well. Some smashing old buildings, and it's a cracking city.
The other place is Royal William Yard.
Yeah,
so it's an old naval docks, I think it is. It's very old, but it's been redeveloped into restaurants and bars. And Wayne Rooney did live in there as well, so see his house.
All right.
Obviously, go there to enjoy the game. Is there anything that fans should be aware of in terms of staying safe? It sounds like it's a friendly place and there's good friendly rivalry between.
Yeah, you're not Exeter, so I think you'll be fine. I've never seen much trouble other than your light-hearted sort of banter and stuff between fans, but no, nothing. I don't think there's any area really need to stay out of in Plymouth like that. It's quite a chilled out city, and we're quite a slow way of life, shall we say, down here.
Cool, and we like slow.
That's good.
Anything Matt, that you'd give advice to people in terms of you travel obviously a lot also? Is there anything to be wary of as a travelling fan?
Similar to a lot of places you go, really, just show the locals respect. And I found when I lived down there, as long as you were pleasant, respectful, you'd make friends for life. And so they're really nice people, really nice city, and we're not Exeter, so like you say, Reece, should be okay.
Brilliant. I want to finish up finally with a couple of questions for you, Reece. So you mentioned, we've obviously talked, I don't think I've done a podcast where that crowd in blue down the road from us in Norwich. Is there any, I think I heard maybe mention of it in there, but is there any local rivalry that's big for?
Yeah, the big one is Exeter. There's a genuine hatred for that city, and I will choose not to go there at every point I can. And if I do, I'll make sure I've got the flag out the window or something like that. Yeah. Exeter's our biggest rival. We haven't played them for a few years. We've got the bragging rights at the moment over them. Hopefully we don't have to play them again next year. They may even go down as well. As Exeter, there's Torquay, which is a bit more of a friendly rivalry. They're down in the non-leagues at the moment, but when they are up, but there's still that sort of love between us and them, and we sort of support them more.
You gang up on Exeter, the two of you?
Oh yeah, very much so. It was weird. So they were in a financial problem last year, and there was like a reunited fans went there. So we went along, sort of supported them, and there was Exeter fans there, but then one of the chants was actually abusing Exeter. Yeah, but Torquay's a nice stadium and nice place to go.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
finally, I
disability.
have to ask you about one of our exports, Ballymumba. How's he getting on?
Yeah, he struggles at times. He's one of these players where, on his day, he's a brilliant little player, and he can score some stunners. Just take players on for fun. And then when he doesn't want to play, he has a shocker. And I think that's sort of his inconsistency is what's making him sort of struggle in the Championship at the moment. I think he's got it in him eventually, but he's certainly, I think, possibly the top end League One, bottom end of Championship player. But yeah, I like Bally. I think he helped us up that season when we had him on loan from you. I think just because of that, he gets a little bit of a free pass from us.
Good stuff.
Did he score against Ipswich?
Twice.
Yeah,
he scored 2 stunners against. He
Yeah,
scored 2 stunners against them. Yeah.
That makes him a hero, son.
And I think he gave away the penalty last year against you to make it 5.
Yes, he
I mean,
did.
it was 5-1 at that point, but I think
I'd given up by half time.
Yeah, it's still a fun ball.
we're in a state of shock. I think we had just come off a loss against Bristol, 4-0 loss against Bristol. I've got one of my mates from work. He's a Norwich fan. He was in the away end. So I text him, go, we'll be lucky to get anything out of this. 1-0. That went against the run of play too. And I could not believe what was going on in front of us. It was just one of those games.
Listen, thank you both very much for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure to meet both of you. I'm really looking forward to the game and the visit to Plymouth. And everybody, hopefully you can subscribe to the Beyond the Barclay podcasts to hear from some great Norwich fans, but also get, for Cillian O'Grady away days, get a guide from the experts on the various towns and cities we're playing. So thank you all for tuning in.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Barclay. Thanks so much for listening. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. You can also catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you've got any questions, stories, or topics you'd like us to cover, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, on the ball, City.